How you doing, people? When we left off with the last video, I had done some texturizing, cross-hatching here, just because I'm going to add a little pant cuff detail. So I'm just adding some slip around where I'm getting ready to affix the clay. Generous helping, as always, because we want it to stay in place. And that's enough right there. Cover the container. I've already got the clay that I want to use because it's the perfect consistency. Nice and soft, but not as watery as slip. And this is going to be a very minor adjustment, so it's not going to take too long at all. And I'm just rolling the clay between my fingers, flattening it out against my palm with my thumb. And I'm just going to press it into place against here. I'm going to cut it off at that middle section, a little off center, just because that part is going to be sort of tucked in. So I'm going to take and do that right now, first thing. And now I'm using this tool just to press in and upward, blending it into the area that was cross-hatched, in and upward, blending it right into the area that was cross-hatched, and it has the slip there, so that's going to be a nice secure hold. Digging in with this tool, tucking a little, and pushing in and upward, in and upward. And just like that, you've made a very, very simple indication of clothing. Nothing detailed. I'm not trying to worry about how the pants would fall, if there would be folds. None of that. It's not necessary because this is a very stylized piece. So I'm breaking off another piece of the clay, rolling it in circles first between my palm to compact it, and then making a tube shape. Pressing that tube out against my thumb with my palm, and doing the same thing. Placing it, pressing it up against, bringing it around, and going to cut off the excess. All right, same thing. Taking the tool, pressing in, lifting up, blending it right into the textured area. Same thing. Pressing in, pressing upward, blending it right into the textured area. Were you worried about how long I was going to struggle with that? I was. All right, blending, pressing in and up, and blending that right into the clay form that's already there. Smoothing out this small area where there's some texture. Pressing in and up. Way too much excess there, so I'm just using the tool to get rid of it. And it's safe for me to go ahead and smooth it the other way as well. I was smoothing up at first, now I'm smoothing down. All of it works because all of it is just blending. And you applied your slip and you did the cross hatching, so it's going to be a nice secure hold. You can move in different directions, and if you see anything is looking a little bit crazy, you can always correct it by adding more clay or spraying a little water, or even texturizing a little bit more if need be. You make the decisions about your piece and what you want to see. And now I'm going to see about working on connecting all three of them back, attaching them at the fro, because the sides that are going to be hidden have pretty much been worked on to my satisfaction, and I don't think I need to do anything else with them. Hopefully I'm not wrong, because these pieces are going to be become extremely difficult to maneuver once I join them. As a matter of fact, I'm sure that I'm going to have to add the cutting board to this so that they can all sit there. And it's probably best for me to go ahead. I just bumped into the camera, sorry. It's probably best for me to go ahead and do that now. The scraping that you're hearing off camera is me just scraping clay residue off of the cutting board so that they have a clean surface to sit on, well, as clean as possible, because I'm not wiping it down or anything. I just don't want the clay that's currently stuck on the cutting board to mesh with the bottom of them and create a sticking area that's going to stick. So bear with me for a second while I get this under control. All right. And I'm probably going to have to change some things around because this is going to take up a considerable amount of space. And when I need to spin, I'm probably going to need to move the camera back so that there won't be areas that are out of range. Hold on a second. Something I need to clean up here. I think it's just clay residue. Yeah, that's all it is. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and lift her up. I'm not putting her... Let me make sure that this is balanced nicely. I don't know where she's going to sit just yet or how. Taking the wet towel off of both of the sisters' heads. And now it's time to get into positioning. So the bulk of her weight is back here, and it's just a little foot peeking out. Like I said, still have to rearrange things so that when I go to spin this around, it's not a huge problem. All right, so there she is. And we're going to pick up sister number 2. We have to arrange her some because she's not exactly in the right position. All right. And I've got to take a look at sister number 3's fro regarding placement. So I'm spinning them around so that you can see this is just tentatively placed there for placement right now to make sure that this fro is not lopsided, and right now it totally is. So I see that I have to push her a little bit into it. And I'm sort of trying to look on top and gaze down on her as well. Because again, it's all about the perspective and making sure that everything is working at every angle. So that's a spin around on them. All right. Now what I'm going to do is take some of this soft clay. I need it to be a deep connection. I actually need more clay than this so that I can start joining the froze. This is so soft that it's sticky still, and that's perfect. Not a problemo at all. For this, I'm going to use the fork because I need some deep gouging to happen. Matter of fact, that's not even a good idea because that fork is so heavy and this is so hard and dry. I need to go ahead and use the needle tool. That keeps me from applying too much pressure. It evens it out a little bit, and I'm not worried about accidentally snapping a neck. But this needle tool is allowing me to dig in deep. So I've got to move her away for a second so that I can serrate this with the needle tool. Slip is going to go all onto there. And it actually has slip on it, but it didn't stay as moist as I thought it was going to be for as long as I thought it would. So it's basically just, hardened considerably. And I need to know that they are affixed. I do not want them coming apart in the kiln at all. I don't want to end up with a lot of repair work on this piece because I've spent so much time building it. I'm honestly, I love them, but I'm ready to move on. I've got other ideas. I've got other things that I want to do with sculpture. And I'm just ready to get to it. So hopefully we can. Hopefully these babies come out of the kiln exactly the way I need them to, and all I have to worry about is glazing. That would be a little tiny slice of heaven for me, and that's what I'm hoping for. So again, I am scratching deep grooves into here because when I apply this slip, I need it to dig in, and I need this connection to be uncompromisable for any reason. So I'm going to move her while I hold them because I'm not sure about the balance of this yet. Now, I never moved sister number 1. I moved sister number 2. So I'm going to let her stay right where she is. Get this positioning back. stupidly put her in the way of the spin. Now I'm moving her back out of the way. And I'm just taking a look to see what's going to happen when I add this slip. How much clay am I going to be filling in to build out and fortify? And I think it will not hurt at all to go ahead and scratch texture into a few other areas. That's what I'm doing right now. And I'm being very aware of the vulnerability of their neck while I'm doing this, of her neck in particular, sister number two, I'm sorry. And I'm making sure to, even though I'm cross hatching, in a way, I'm sort of going with the grain too. I guess that's the best description for right now. I'm not pulling backwards on her. I'm slicing forward because, again, don't want that neck compromised too much. So what I actually should have done earlier while I was taking my break was made more slip because I don't have all that much. Hopefully it's enough to get me through what I need to do. I'm going to use the little spoon tool, and I'm really going to clean this and start scraping the sides since I have to make a new batch anyway. And once again, I'm going to just move sister number 2 so I can get to sister number 3 and start applying that slip really thick. That is the key for this joint. It needs to be thick. And that's what I'm going to make it. You'll notice I'm applying it to both. Not something I normally do, but like I told you, this union or this reunion has to be impeccable. I want to use another word, but kids might listen to this video. Unbleep-wittable. There. The adults know what I just said. All right. That's enough slip applied to both of them. I've got to go ahead, grab my bag of crumbles. All right, so I poured a good amount of water because there's a good amount of clay. So I'm going to try to affix this seal really nicely on this little container. Flip it upside down, shaking it around so that all the clay gets saturated quickly, and then I'll turn it right side up again and let it set. I'll have to, of course, stir it up and get it to the consistency I want. But for right now, that'll do. I am just holding sister number 1 firmly while I'm pushing sister number 2 over to her. Seems like nothing much is going on, but these are delicate maneuvers because I have to be aware about the tension I'm putting in this area. Push too hard, I could snap her neck forward and end up having to rebuild that part. So I'm just trying to test to see how far can I push before the back of her starts lifting, indicating that there's nowhere to go. All right, I think that they are pretty securely joined. I'm hoping, at least, like I said, everything is sort of riding on this connection being solid. But I'm going to have to make sure that it's everything it's supposed to be by adding more clay and pushing it down so that it can get into any open spaces. So here I am, rolling it out again, just flattening it just a little bit. You can see I'm leaving a good amount of thickness, and I'm draping it right there. And I'm going to use this tool to push down. And you can see all that slip seeping out. It's cool. I'm not even removing it because more clay is going to be added, and all of that slip will serve its purpose. This is me folding the clay over onto itself in an effort to pack any gaps. Just gently folding the clay over onto itself while pressing down in the hopes of filling gaps. Spinning it around so I can do the same thing on this side. Holding their heads together, I've got my palm firmly placed against her and firmly placed against the forehead of sister number 2. And I'm pressing in, mashing the clay in. Hopefully it's seeping right into open areas. That's what the hope is. Pushing it forward, folding it over onto itself. Pushing it forward, folding it over onto itself, in an effort to make sure that that clay is pressing down into the gaps. Now I'm taking some of the excess and pressing it over into her fro, building out the body a little differently. And I'm going to use soft and slip to make considerably more texture on each of their fros. Not doing too much in there because remember, sister number 3 is going to go in there. All right, it's been 48 minutes, going into 48 minutes and 20 seconds. I'm going to take a break, and when I come back, I should be able to stir up the slip, and it should be the consistency that I need. And then I will be adding the afro into this. I'm going to have to texture this considerably. Matter of fact, why don't I do that right now, because we know what it is. And there's enough thickness that I left to the fro that I'm not worried about punching through. It doesn't make a difference if this punches through, because that hollow on the inside is not going to show at all. So I am raking very roughly, making some really deep grooves, and I am going to apply slip when I get back. And remember, this whole afro is going to match the texture of her two sisters, so it doesn't matter that I'm texturizing the entire fro right now, because clay is going to get pressed into here, or I might just wet it and make the designs, you know, press them out with the spoon tool and make it look like the sisters that way, instead of adding more clay, since I did leave this ponytail, this puff, pretty thick on the inside. That's about the thickness I left it on the inside, and that's about double what I normally do. So I think I'm safe with texturizing this from the outside. And in order to do that, I want to make this really pliable, so I'm going to really saturate the outside of this. I'm holding my hand up, cupping it, just to keep from spraying the other sisters too much, because they're far from bone dry. That clay inside is still very moist, but it needs to dry uniformly. Otherwise, that's when you see cracks start to appear, so I'm not trying to wet it to a degree where it doesn't, dry area is up against very moist area, because that's what contributes to the cracks. So I'm just going to cover this really loosely for right now while I take my break. And then I'll come back, and we are, I'd say, at probably like a 90% completion point with the second installment of Three Sisters, One Fro, and I'm so excited about that. I've been working on them a long time. I love them, but I'm ready to see them finished. I'm ready to move on to other pieces, and I really appreciate you for joining me in this journey. I hope that you've been getting something out of it, and that you'll stick with me as I can create more and more. Peace.